Thank you all for joining us here at I-80 Sports, where today the trade deadline has come and gone. So we got to talk winners, losers, and grade all 32 teams in the NHL. Guys, thank you for joining us here again at I-80 Sports. Thank you all for joining us here again at I-80 Sports. If you're listening here on wherever you like to stream your podcast and you're not checking out our YouTube channel right now, make sure you check us out down below, youtube.com/I-80 Sports. And while you're there, hit the like button, subscribe, and hit the bell notification so that way you guys know when we go live. And let us know down below what you guys thought of the trade deadline. What did your favorite teams do? What did they not do? What were you hoping for? And what are you happy about? And what are you sad about? Let us know in the comment section down below, and we'll just join the conversation, and we'll even conversate back with you. And if you're on Twitter, make sure you follow us down below at I80_sports NHL. And if you follow us already, thank you guys so much because we greatly value all of your support. I'm Brian. He's Tom. Tom, how are you doing today?
Doing well. And it has been a crazy deadline this year. One of the craziest ones I could remember. I mean, I remember 04 was kind of nuts, but that was just because everybody knew an impending lockout was coming. So a lot of teams were just going for guys on one-year deals because they knew they wouldn't have to deal with it with a hard salary cap coming. And even I remember in 99, teams like Detroit and Colorado and St. Louis, to a lesser extent, really stacking up on guys as well that year. So, but I mean, even so, in comparison to those two, this one has just been crazy. This has been nuts.
Yeah, in the grand scheme of it all, like on deadline day itself, we only saw about 18 trades, which is still up from the usual, and not as much as we saw last year on deadline day. But the trades we saw leading up and on the day itself is bananas. So we're going to get into this now. We're going to talk trade deadline. We're jumping right in, diving straight into the deep end on this one. And, well, honestly, it's pretty much our traffic report for the entire video. So let's head up to traffic report. Let's see what trades we missed out on.
The I-80 Sports Traffic Report, where you can find all your news and notes from the week.
You may or may not know, the traffic report is usually meant for our NHL news segment, but dominating the news is all the trades and the fallout from the trade deadline. So that's what we're focusing on today. No more of the nitty gritty. We're going to talk trades right now. I'm going to start by just running down the list here. Thank you to TSN for this one, for their trade tracker, which, might I add, they have a weird filtering system for filtering trades, because you can filter under all trades, major trades, and Canadian trades, in case you were wondering about all Canadian trades. Not the American trades. We don't care about those. Only the Canadian trades. But we're filtered under major trades right now. And I'll even go back at some point and also filter under all trades to just list some interesting trades that I thought were great for certain teams. But filtering under major trades, what happened on deadline day and leading up to deadline day, let's get caught up. So starting from the most recent trade and going backwards of ones that we haven't covered, Minnesota Wild making a splash, acquiring defenseman John Klingberg from the Anaheim Mighty Ducks. Did I really just say the Anaheim Mighty Ducks? I feel like I want to be in the 90s. From the Anaheim Ducks, they acquired him for Andrei Schuster, Nikita Nesterenko, and a 2025 fourth-round pick. Anaheim does retain 50% of Klingberg's salary. Next major trade to list off here, the Boston Bruins making a big splash, acquiring right winger Tyler Bertuzzi from the Detroit Red Wings in exchange for a 2024 first-round pick and a 2025 fourth-round pick. The Red Wings will retain 50% of Bertuzzi's salary and receive a 2024 top 10 protected first-round pick from the Bruins. So that is a lottery-protected pick. Interesting to note there for the Boston Bruins, and we'll get back to why that's interesting later. Next, the Ottawa Senators acquiring Jacob Chychrun from the Arizona Coyotes. Finally, sorry to blow your eardrums out, but seriously, finally for this one, In exchange for a conditional 2023 first round pick, a conditional 2024 second round pick, and a 2026 second round pick going over to the Arizona Coyotes. The 2023 first rounder is top 5 protected. If met, the pick becomes a 2024 first round unprotected pick. Should Ottawa reach the 2023 Eastern Conference Final, the second round pick becomes a 2024 first round top 10 protected pick. If that condition is met, the pick becomes a 2025 first round unprotected pick. There's a lot going on in that deal, but yeah, a lot to unpack there. The LA Kings have acquired Vladislav Gavrikov and Joonas Korpisalo from the Columbus Blue Jackets in exchange for Jonathan Quick, a conditional 2023 first round pick, and a 2024 third round pick. The first rounder will downgrade to 2 second round picks in 2023 and 2024 if the Kings miss the playoffs this season, which who knows at this point. And spoiler alert, Jonathan King is not a Columbus Blue Jacket anymore. We'll get back to that one in a minute. Funny that they don't list that one under major trades, though, but we'll get back to that in a little bit. This will make Tom happy because this one involves the Rangers. And gee, I wonder which trade we're talking about here. I think this was a pretty small trade, if you ask me. But the New York Rangers acquiring Patrick Kane from the Chicago Blackhawks. I don't know. I feel like I haven't really heard enough Rangers fans really talk about this enough. They're really not chattering about this one. This seems like a pretty minuscule trade. But they acquire Patrick Kane from the Chicago Blackhawks along with Cooper Zek in exchange for Andy Walensky, a conditional 2023 second round pick, and a 2025 fourth round pick. The Blackhawks receive Vili Sarahap. You know what? Read it yourself on TSN. I'm not about to read small print here. From Arizona. Arizona receives a 2025 third round pick from the Rangers. Chicago retains 50% of Kane's salary. Arizona retains 25% of Kane's salary. So quite the sorcery to make this one work, and I'll explain why it's sorcery later. Next, the Edmonton Oilers have acquired Matthias Ekholm and a 2024 sixth round pick from the Nashville Predators in exchange for Tyson Barrie, Reed Schaefer, a 2023 first round pick, and a 2024 fourth round pick. Surprising that there's no conditions applied to any of those picks at all, because thank God I don't want to read more text on those. Next, the Toronto Maple Leafs just were wheeling and dealing defensemen and just trying to acquire the best possible defenseman possible at the deadline. Acquiring from the Washington Capitals Eric Gustafsson and a 2023 first round pick in exchange for Rasmus Sandin. That was actually kind of surprising to me, them moving out Rasmus Sandin. But Washington gets a pretty decent defenseman there. But it was all in, because they made this move with the Chicago Blackhawks. Toronto has acquired Jake McCabe, Sam Lafferty, a conditional 2024 fifth round pick, and a conditional 2025 fifth round pick in exchange for Joey Anderson, Pavel Gogolev, a conditional 2025 first round pick, and a 2026 second round pick. Chicago will retain 50% of McCabe's salary, and the 2025 first round pick going to Chicago is top 10 protected. Then we get the bananas trade that Tampa Bay made, which did they just literally just throw darts at a dartboard and say, yeah, that works? They acquired Tanner Jeannot and only Tanner Jeannot from the Nashville Predators in exchange for Cal Foote, a 2023 fifth round pick, a 2023 fourth round pick, a 2023 third round pick, a 2024 second round pick, and a 2025 first round pick because they had no other first round picks. They don't have a first round pick until 2026 at this point, and even then that's not safe at this point. But wow, what a deal. This one is the reason why I'm wearing this t-shirt today, to be honest. But this is another one of those crazy 13-man deals here, so buckle up, strap in. This is a wild one. The New Jersey Devils have acquired Timo Meier, Scott Harrington, Santeri Hataka, Timur Ibragimov. Ibragimov. I don't know. Something ECHL player. Goalie Zachary Emond and a 2024 fifth round pick in exchange for Andreas Janssen, Shakir Mukmadulin, Nikita Oktakyuk, Fabian Zetterlund, a 2023 first-round pick, a conditional 2024 first-round pick, and a 2024 seventh-round pick. And put it this way, there's so many things going on here that under conditions, it just says read more. So a lot going on there. Just a lot going on in that deal. And I'll have reactions for that in just a little bit. And the last trade here that we did not get to react to since the last episode,
Mm-hmm.
we have the Toronto Maple Leafs literally minutes after we were done with the recording.
And said O'Reilly was not going to go anywhere.
Literally, we get done with the recording, and then this bananas trade comes in. The Toronto Maple Leafs acquiring Ryan O'Reilly and Nola Chari from the St. Louis Blues in exchange for Mikhail Abramov, Adam Gaudette, a 2023 first-round pick, a 2023 third-round pick, and a 2024 second-round pick. Minnesota had to be the middleman here, so Minnesota receives a fourth-round pick in 2025 from Toronto and retains 25% of O'Reilly's salary. St. Louis retains 50% of O'Reilly's salary, and Toronto also picks up Josh Pilar from Minnesota in this deal as well. So, wow. A lot to unpack here, a lot that we will unpack here. I am just going to filter under all trades real quick and just, spitter and sputter through here and just see if there are other deals that are worth mentioning here, which there are a couple that are worth mentioning, such as the Minnesota Wild acquiring Oscar Sundqvist from Detroit in exchange for a 2023 fourth-round pick. The Buffalo Sabres acquiring Jordan Greenway from the Minnesota Wild in exchange for a 2023 second-round pick and a 2024 fifth-round pick. And Minnesota's second-round pick there, it was Vegas Golden Knights second-round pick, important to note there. Other deals that are worth mentioning, the Pittsburgh Penguins acquiring Dmitry Kulikov from the Anaheim Ducks in exchange for Brock McGinn and a 2024 third-round pick. Rip Penguins fans, I guess. Other deals worth mentioning, the Winnipeg Jets acquiring Vladislav Nemestikov from the San Jose Sharks. Philadelphia Flyers exchanging goons with the Los Angeles Kings. Los Angeles Kings acquiring Zach McEwen, and Philadelphia Flyers acquiring Brendan Lemieux and a fifth-round pick in 2024 in that deal. Devils also acquiring Curtis Lazar from the Vancouver Canucks in exchange for a fourth-round pick in 2024. Important to note that Curtis Lazar is also locked up until 2025 under $1 million a year contract. So pretty savvy move by the Devils there. Pittsburgh reacquiring Nick Bonino from the San Jose Sharks. Jacob Vrana going to the St. Louis Blues from the Detroit Red Wings. How is this not listed as a major trade? The Dallas Stars acquiring Max Domi from the Chicago Blackhawks. How that flew under the radar for them. That's wild to me. Oh, I know why. Because Anton Hudobin's involved in the deal, so it's inconsequential. Edmonton acquiring Nick Bjugstad from Arizona. Anders Bjork going to Chicago from Buffalo. Jonathan Quick, as I mentioned before, going to Vegas from Columbus in exchange for Michael Hutchinson and a seventh-round pick. So if you've got your bingo card ready now, Columbus's goaltenders right now are Michael Hutchinson and John Gillies. Pray for Columbus fans. I'm not. And the last one, again, I don't know how this is not mentioned as a major deal. Mikael Granlund going to the Pittsburgh Penguins in exchange for a second-round pick. I don't know why that's not listed as a bigger deal. Also, Vegas acquiring Teddy Bluger from the Pittsburgh Penguins. And then, was there really anything else? I'll just go really, really quick. Philip Hronek going to Vancouver from Detroit. Detroit was really wheeling and dealing. Carolina acquiring Shane Gostisbehere from Arizona. Lars Eller going to the Colorado Avalanche from Washington. And I don't mean to gloss over these trades, but I'm going to gloss over them because there's really not a lot to unpack until we start talking about them. Luke Schenn going to the Toronto Maple Leafs from Vancouver. Pierre Engvall going to New York, the New York Islanders from Toronto as well. Marcus Johansson going to the Minnesota Wild from Washington, and Jesse Puljujarvi going to the Carolina Hurricane from Edmonton. And that really kind of wraps things up in a nice little bow. I think there are some other okay. Admittedly, this is another one. Ivan Barbashev going to the Vegas Golden Knights, and a straight 1-for-1 deal with Montreal and Dallas. Montreal getting Denis Gurianov. Dallas getting Evgeny Dadonov. I'm forgetting some of these trades even happened. Nino Niederreiter going to the Winnipeg Jets from Nashville for a second round pick. And I think we did already talk about Dmitry Orlov and Garnett Hathaway going to Boston beforehand, but even still. Oh, and Keith Kincaid going to Colorado and wearing some of the dustiest equipment I ever saw the other night. But yeah, that about does it. So let's react. There's a lot to unpack here, a lot that we need to talk about here. So let's go straight away. Let's first just talk who we thought won the trade deadline. Let's talk about who we thought were coming away from the trade deadline as winners, come away a better team for the remainder of this season and possibly in the long run. Tom, let's start with you here. Who are your trade deadline winners?
Well, I got to admit, it might be a home roller here. I like what the Rangers did. They got better. Everybody can say that Tarasenko's past his prime. 80 points last year on a playoff team that some were saying were predicting that might knock off Colorado in the second round. You can say Kane is past his prime. 90 points last year on a terrible Blackhawks team. The problem with Ranger fans is this, and some of them, everybody gets this stupid Mark Messier philosophy every time they make a big trade. It's wrong to even think like that. If you want to compare this to anything, and then you get the other people say, oh, well, in the modern era, no deadline deals win team Stanley Cup. All right, well, I'm going to take you back real quick on a history lesson from how many years ago? 9 years ago and 11 years ago. The two LA Kings Cups.
For
LA in 2012 brought in Jeff Carter. Jeff Carter led the playoffs and the Kings in goal scoring. LA in 2014 brought in Marian Gaborik. Gaborik led the Kings and the playoffs in goal scoring. The Kings don't make those two deals. Guess what? They probably don't win either one of those Stanley Cups. So the age-old, these superstars are washed up. Tarasenko and Kane are not washed up. Kane, is he in his prime anymore? Maybe not, but he's still a top player. Tarasenko, I think people are overrating a little bit. Good hockey player. Tarasenko at his best was never a top 5 forward in the league. He wasn't. Not a knock on Tarasenko. He's a good player. He is. He was never a top 5 forward in the league, even at his best.
Yeah. To play devil's advocate too on that one, not devil's advocate, but kind of piggyback on that and give a history lesson for Devils fans. Devils in 2003 acquired Joe Nieuwendyk.
They actually did that the year before.
Yeah, and a lot of, a little bit of head scratching because Nieuwendyk was quite over the hill at that point, but Nieuwendyk brought a lot to the table at the time. And I don't know, without Nieuwendyk, you might not win that 2003 Stanley Cup. You might not be a winner at that point. He did a lot of the little things.
I'm sorry. What about McGillney in 2000 as well?
McGillney in 2000, you can make the argument there. You can make the argument for Claude Lemieux in 1995.
You had him already for a couple of years at that point. Neil Broughton is another person that you can. Stéphane Richer that year too. So yeah, I don't want to bring up 94 because 94 we got hosed on a lot of those trades. They just happen to work out.
Year 2000, Vladimir Malikov.
As exactly. So,
these are deals that you're left scratching your head on of just like, you're giving up a lot of assets here. What is this all for? These guys are washed. It's all hearsay unless they win a Stanley Cup. It's all hearsay unless they win a Stanley Cup.
It is hearsay, but at the same time, you can't. Sometimes you sit pat, sometimes you can't. In 2012, the Rangers stood pat and didn't win. And if they would have maybe brought in a guy like the aforementioned Jeff Carter, and they didn't have a complete idiot behind the bench in 2012, they may have won. Lundqvist may have a cup, and we might be reminiscing. Lundqvist maybe would have been raising a Stanley Cup at his banner at his retirement last year instead of just watching his jersey go up.
Yeah, it's insanely true there, and it's the same thing with the Devils in that case. You pick back in 2012, they made it to the Stanley Cup final. One of the most overlooked trades that they made at that deadline in 2012 was for Andrei Ponikarovsky, or Alexei Ponikarovsky rather. Yep. And he was a major part as to why they made it to the Eastern Conference Final and then Stanley Cup that year. Although they didn't win the Stanley Cup, he was a very, very, very important player that they ended up picking up.
If we're talking about going to the finals, Marty St. Louis. People still crying about that trade. Those 2 first-round picks they gave up for Marty St. Louis never amounted to anything. One was Josh Hosang, who barely cracked it. Another was Anthony Beauvillier. Okay, Anthony Beauvillier has been
That
a
hurts a
playoff
little.
performer.
It does hurt a little bit, but then in the grand scheme of it all, like you trade all these assets, and for what? Tampa Bay. In Tampa Bay's case, I joked before that they don't have a first round pick until 2025, and even then, that's in jeopardy, or rather, until 2026. But you know what? Laugh to the bank.
Yeah.
They're a 2-time Stanley Cup winner, back-to-back Stanley Cup winner.
Well, I'm going to talk about them in a little bit, but
and don't get me wrong. Don't misconstrue that for me approving the trade that they made at this deadline.
Yeah.
I don't. But Tom, I'll let you kind of continue with your winners here.
Yeah, I'm just saying too. There's still people crying about that. I've said it before, and I'll say it again. Back in 2014, and I don't mean to go harkening back to the past year. If they would have kept Callahan, they would have gone out against Pittsburgh in 5, and there maybe even is a chance that they don't even beat the Flyers in the first round that year. But the other thing I like about the Rangers, besides bringing in Mikkola and Niko Mikkola, who people are harping on, I don't mind him either. Mikkola, Tarasenko, and Kane. What I like even more about it is they didn't give up any young assets. They still have Brennan Othman. They still have Zach Jones and Matthew Robertson. They still have a first-round pick in what's supposed to be a loaded draft this year. They didn't give up all that much to bring these guys in. I liked what the Devils did with Timo Meier. Apparently there were better offers on the table for him. A lot of people thought that he may go to Vegas, or he may go to St. Louis, or he may go to Carolina, who I'm going to talk about as well later on. He didn't. The Devils made out with who they wanted. Going to be interesting to see what happens over the summer with the precedent that nobody makes more than Jack Hughes. It's going to be interesting to see, are they going to give him what he wants at that $10 million, or are they going to let him get offer sheeted and take the draft picks? It's going to be interesting. And right now, you don't worry about that. You can't worry about it right now. Toronto Maple Leafs, I don't know how the hell they did what they did, but wow. So you bring in Ryan O'Reilly, Luke Shen, Jake McCabe, and on top of all that, you get a first-round pick in this year's draft with that idiotic deal with Washington, who I'll talk about as well later. I'm not tooting the Leafs horn much this year. It was a good trade. Unfortunately, now you have O'Reilly out on LTIR, which sucks, but what are you going to do? Yeah. The other team I'm gonna go quickly now. St. Louis. You got rid of 2 of your biggest assets, recouped 2 draft picks for your 2 biggest assets. You have 3 first-round draft picks in a loaded draft this year. Great job by St. Louis to recoup. Start of I guess kind of a retool or rebuild. We'll see where they go with this. As we had said in previous episodes, Tarasenko wanted out of there in the worst way. Don't think he'll be back with the Rangers, but I don't see him going back to the Blues either in free agency. And the final team, Boston Bruins. Dmitry Orlov, man, looking great. That top pair of McAvoy and Orlov is looking scary. I watched their game against Calgary last Tuesday night. Watch Orlov score 2 goals in his first game. Wow for the Bruins. Bertuzzi factor, I'm a little more annoyed about that trade as a Ranger fan. Not because I wanted Bertuzzi. Because we get put in cap jail for doing what we did, for Drury for doing what he did. Yet the Bruins the other day can LTIR Taylor Hall and Nick Foligno, who seemingly a week ago were fine, and then in a video today where they're celebrating their 100-point accomplishment of practice, you see Foligno sitting there with his gear on. I'm sorry, I'm not one to bark about fairness, but that's BS. I'm very, very annoyed with that because the Rangers played as best as they could play on Saturday afternoon, but it's hard to play when it's amateur beer league, 2 guys at the bar, 1 guy at work later. When you're a kid playing travel hockey, Nicky threw up and Mikey's parents didn't get back from the airport in time to get him to the game. That's what this is. And then with the other BS, how you can't get an emergency call up until the game against Montreal on Thursday night. Another BS thing. And on top of all that, no supplemental discipline for the Lindgren hit. But besides all that, I did like what the Bruins did. They really are going for it. I think they know they have to go for it now. This is kind of I harken back to 99 in a way. I get a 1999 Dallas Stars vibe with this team, where Dallas was kind of in the same mentality back in 99, where it's, we got to win it now or we're not winning it. Obviously, Dallas hadn't won before, and they were going after cup number 1. These Bruins, some of them have won before. Not very many of them are left from that 2011 team. Only Marchand, Bergeron, and Krejci. But this is kind of we kind of have to do this now because we don't know how many more kicks at this can we're going to get. But I like what they did as well.
Yeah. Talking trade deadline winners here. I'll be a homer too. I think the Devils made out really, really nicely. The Devils come away with one of the best available wingers possible. And to go back to Tom's point, where the Rangers ended up getting Tarasenko and Kane and not having to really give up their prospect depth, the Devils go and acquire Meyer and really don't give up a whole hell of a lot to do it. Yeah, you give up a current NHL role player in Fabian Zetterlund. I really liked Zetterlund. I thought he's been really developing into a really, really nice player, a really nice piece. Goes over to San Jose now. Is going to get possibly some top 6 minutes early on this, for the remainder of this year. Good on him. But in the grand scheme of it all, the real thing you really give up is Shakir Mukhamadullin in this year's first round pick, which if everything works out and everything breaks out correctly, that pick is anywhere between 25 to 32. And if it's that, I think the Devils are more than happy to give that up this year. Yes, it's a loaded draft, and Devils are no different in terms of understanding a loaded draft. Just ask a few years ago, they came away with Alexander Holtz, Shakir Mukhamadullin, who they turned into Timo Meier just now, and Dawson Mercer, who has been an absolute beast for them lately. And, the biggest thing about this Timo Meier deal, you don't give up Luke Hughes. You don't give up Alexander Holtz somehow in this deal. You don't give up Simon Nemec. You don't give up some really, really big, key, important prospects. And now you get to really kind of hold on to them and decide what you're going to do with them. Nemec and Hughes are probably on the way. Hughes has already been stated that once the Michigan season is done, once they're out of the playoffs, he's coming over to the Devils to finish out the rest of this year and could even play a factor in the playoffs if he ends up playing enough games. And that's exciting to see for the Devils. And Simon Nemec's going to be knocking on the door as of next year. Could very well make the team out of camp next year. So it's going to be really interesting to watch. But the Devils go ahead and acquire Timo Meier. I really like the deal. I really think the Devils kind of hit a home run with this one. They didn't back off that hill, and Tom Fitzgerald really pulled it off here. The Maple Leafs, holy moly, they did everything they possibly could to get better. Yes, it hurts that they lose Ryan O'Reilly right now. He's got a broken finger. It's not known when he's going to come back just yet. And they also picked up some really nice defensive pieces. You pick up McCabe, you pick up Luke Shen, you trade Rasmus Sandin, which has me scratching my head a little bit, and we'll get back to that in a little bit. But I mean, the biggest complaint that I've had with the Toronto Maple Leafs was defense, and they addressed it here. They really knocked it out of the park in my mind. The Rangers, I can't even front. They pulled some sorcery to get both Patrick Kane and Vladimir Tarasenko. Pure sorcery to be able to not only get just one of them, but two of them. So if the Devils and the Rangers end up playing in the first round, I am going to be sitting there, popcorn on my lap, just excited like a kid in a candy store watching that series. That is going to be magnificent because if the season ended today, that's the matchup.
You guys can win the division if you want, no problem.
Yeah,
I'm gonna get back to Carolina in a little while. So, but you want to win? You want first place? Take it.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, I don't care if the Devils end up winning the Metropolitan Division at this point. If it's all bread right now with them making the playoffs, they're ahead of their window, and the window really opens as of next year for them. So
that's how I felt with the Rangers last year. I was kind of in the similar boat where it's like, okay, cool, we'll just get it and see what happens.
Exactly. This is just like, and even whatever they end up doing in the playoffs, it's whatever. I'm not looking for the Devils to win the Stanley Cup. I'm just going to be happy that they're even making the playoffs and that they're potentially going to make it this far. So fun to watch. Other teams that I really liked at the deadline, the Edmonton Oilers, the Nashville Predators, the Minnesota Wild, the Boston Bruins. But one team that I feel won the deadline by not doing anything too brash was the Carolina Hurricane, actually. I really like, in this case, less was kind of more here. And I know Tom can disagree, especially, harken back to what the New York Rangers did years ago in leading up to a potential Stanley Cup win, which ultimately was not. But once the Carolina Hurricane realized that they were out on Timo Meier, they stayed put. which honestly I thought was a good idea because any other trade would have that they could have made would have been at the possible expense of Seth Jarvis, who I think Carolina is keen on keeping, and understandably so. I think he's a very talented forward, and I think he's going to be part of this future core that they have building around currently, between the likes of Jarvis, Aho, Teravainen, and Natchez. I think they've got a really, really, really nice core that they're currently trying to build around right now. Picking up Puljujarvi, I think for the top 9, bottom 6 type of role is a pretty decent move. It's a good change of pace and good change of scenery for Puljujarvi. I think maybe he can get it going on a new team. Just ask Pavel Zacha how a change of scenery ended up working out for him. So maybe that we know Puljujarvi is talented. So maybe he just needed the change of scenery. Ultimately, I think it was the right decision for Carolina to just kind of stand pat, let things kind of develop, and just let the arms race continue. But Tom, I know you're going to disagree on this one, but that's why we're going to talk about in our next segment here, because there are winners, there are losers. Tom, who are some of the biggest losers? And I know you and I are going to be beating this team up.
Tampa Bay Lightning, in my opinion, right now. You pissed away. Let's just go back to the trade. Cal Foote, good defensive prospect. You pissed away that and 5 picks for Tanner Jeannot. We got Tarasenko and Kane for much less than that. Obviously, different kind of situation. Both of them wanted out of where they were. I understand the Bolts MO the last couple of years with I'm sorry, I'm drawing a blank on who their GM is. Damn it.
For who? For Tampa Bay?
For Tampa. It's a French Canadian, and I'm mad at myself. I'm forgetting his name.
I got you.
Not Pierre. Is it Pierre? No, Marc. Damn it.
It's Julien Brisebois.
Julien Brisebois. I knew it was a French Canadian name, and I just drew a blank. I was going to say Pierre Dorian, but I knew I was going to be wrong.
No.
Point being, let me go back to this. I know they are in win now mode, and I know they're kind of akin to the Red Wings in the late 90s, where you had those good teams in the early to mid 90s and even the late 80s for those Red Wings back then as well. You could maybe make an argument for. And they're in win now mode. They won 2 cups in a row. They went to a final last year, but they could potentially right now, they're free falling. They could find themselves as a wild card team if they're not careful, and could find themselves potentially having to line up against a Boston Bruins or a Carolina Hurricanes, which actually in their case might be favorable, but we'll talk about that in a minute. Or your New Jersey Devils in the first round, which actually, if I were a Devil fan, I don't know if I'd feel too comfortable about that. But then again, you got Palat. He knows what they do. There was once a team years ago who won cups and kept trying to make win now moves after they won multiple cups. They're a dumpster fire now, and they play in Chicago, Illinois. And they kept making dumb moves like this at deadlines to try to win another cup instead of really going over what they have. I'm looking at the Bolts lines right now. And again, the Bolts, I hate to say it, they're doing what Edmonton does. They have Stamkos, Kucherov, and Point on their first line. You look down the depth chart with the Bolts, there's not much after that. There's not much. They had to get rid of Ryan McDonough in the summertime. And obviously, last year the Bolts kind of had a free fall towards the end of the season as well. And we all know what happened. They went to the finals. But I'm not so sure if this year you can make a similar case for those same Tampa Bay Lightning. I don't know. I really don't know if you can. When you have a Toronto Maple Leafs team who got stronger, you have a Boston Bruins team who is a juggernaut right now, and then you potentially could fall into a wild card spot and have to play a Carolina Hurricanes, who I'm sure that loss in 2021 is fresh in their minds. Now I want to move on to another team who I'm actually probably giving too much credit right now positively, which I don't want to. Carolina Hurricanes, scratching my head about. It's been proven now for the past 2 years that this lineup and them standing pat can't get past the second round of the playoffs. There were people in 2021 who thought they were going to beat Tampa in that second round, and they may be contending for a cup. They didn't beat Tampa. Last year, a lot of people, including myself, thought that they were going to have not an easy time with the Rangers, but would pretty much beat them. They didn't. And as a Ranger fan here, since they beat the Rangers in Game 5 last year in Carolina, they have looked like deers in the headlights against the Rangers. in Game 6, Game 7, and the 2 meetings so far this year, they look lost when they're out there against the Rangers. Artemi Panarin, who everybody was crying about not doing enough, basically scored 4 goals against them with his eyes closed a couple weeks ago. I don't know how people call him a Stanley Cup contender right now. And out of the 6 teams in the East right now who you think are definitely going to make it, Boston, Toronto, Tampa, who's kind of iffy right now, Devils, Rangers, and Canes. I rank the Canes probably 6th on that list right now. I don't know how this team improved, and I just don't know, especially if they get the Rangers in the first round, how they're going to get out of it. Because if I were a Canes fan right now, and it's not me being a Ranger fan and tooting their own horn, if I was a Canes fan right now, I would not want to be seeing the Rangers in the first round. I'm telling you that right now. Would not want to be seeing the Rangers. One more team before we move on here. Actually, 2 more teams. I'm sorry. Ottawa Senators. This team is no shoo-in for the playoffs. I can't justify them nabbing Jacob Chychrun for a conditional first-round pick and a second-round pick, 2 second-round picks. I can't justify that when there's no guarantee you're even going to get in. That's too much to give up right now. If you made it last year and had a run, okay, or even if you made it and didn't have a run, I'm sorry, that's too much. That's too much. And the Washington Capitals, you gave the Toronto Maple Leafs a first-round pick and a loaded draft for Rasmus Sandin. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? This is a team who, even though they're saying on all the broadcasts, we're still in win now mode, Ovi is old. Backstrom is old. Wilson and Kuznetsov may still have some years left in Carlson. You got to really think about the future of this team here. That does not help you in the future. It doesn't. It doesn't. And I'm going to tell you right now, I don't think we said this year that this may be a year where one of Pittsburgh and Washington falls off, and I do think it's Washington who falls off this year. I do. So, yeah, those are my losers right now.
Yeah, I mean, to kind of go back to Tampa Bay real quick, I didn't list. I mean, they are one of my losers, and I'll get back to why in a little bit. Tampa Bay's not deep anymore, and yeah, they need to spread that line of Kucherov, Point, and Stamkos. I mean, the 3 of them got benched the other night by John Cooper, and now John Cooper is like public enemy number 1, which he is like one of the first people that even got them to where they are. He is the type of coach that would be on literal 24-hour watch. If he were to lose his job today, he would have another head coaching job tomorrow. He is that level of head coach, without a doubt. Teams would go out of their way to fire whoever they have to get John Cooper. That's no hyperbole. That's the type of coach that he is. So he was sending a message to that team: play better. No one is safe. And in this case, apparently neither are their draft picks, because they gave away the whole farm to go and get Tanner Jeannot. Which, yeah, it worked out when they went and got Blake Coleman a few years ago. It worked out when they went and got Barclay Goodrow a few years ago. It
David Savard as well was a big acquisition. Yeah. I don't know if he's worth the first, but he helped them win that second straight cup.
Worked when they also picked up Nick Paul, who was also part of that second straight cup too. Worked when they got Patrick Maroon. The list goes on with this. But Jeannot just hasn't really done enough this year to warrant exactly what Tampa Bay gave up to Nashville in exchange for this. I hope it works out for them. It's worked out in the past for them, but time will tell. We'll see. See, to me, Ottawa leaves me scratching my head of why picking up Jacob Chychrun, but also not really, because this is a team that's going to start building also around Jacob Chychrun too, and it's going to make them. But this isn't a move for this year. This is not a move for this year. This is a move for next year. Very obviously, Ottawa thinks that they can leap 2 teams in the standings next year with a move like this. That's exactly where this comes from. This is building up for next year. I honestly think that's what it is. But here, I'm left scratching my head at Arizona, because Arizona wanted a king's ransom for Jacob Chychrun for the past year and a half. And this is all you got back for him? No top prospect, no multiple picks. You got multiple picks, but you're telling me that you didn't have Ottawa throw in anything else, Eric Brandstrom, anything into this deal? I don't know. it leaves me scratching my head for the Arizona Coyotes. Yes, you get draft picks here, and I think that's huge, but I feel like you could have done so much more, especially after all the hype behind Jacob Chitrin possibly being on the block a year and a half ago. They waited a little bit too long to make that deal work. They really, really did. All right. I hated the way the LA Kings went about acquiring Vladislav Gavrikov and Joonas Korpisalo. Yes, both of them are massive upgrades for that team. I think that it addresses two major needs that the LA Kings have right now: goaltending and defense. There's no doubt in my mind on that one. But you did this at the expense of the greatest goaltender in franchise history, Jonathan Quick. Look back at history of the past few years. The New Jersey Devils did not trade Martin Brodeur. They just didn't re-sign him. The New York Rangers didn't trade Henrik Lundqvist. They just didn't re-sign him. The Yankees didn't trade Babe Ruth. They just didn't re-sign him.
Actually, technically, they did trade him
for like a bag of balls. That's about it.
Well, there's if you ever seen the movie, he walked in and told the owner, "If you're not going to make me manager, I don't want to play anymore."
Well, yeah, all right, different circumstance, but even still, the point being, you don't do this.
Can I interject real quick?
Sure.
This was a team who had no problem stripping a guy who was captain of two of their Stanley Cup teams, taking the C off his jersey. Yes. But now they build a statue of him outside the rink, which makes even less sense.
No, I mean, this is a. I just think it's poor management. I don't think it's a good. It's not dealing in good faith in my mind. This is not making deals in good faith here. Jonathan Quick did not want to get traded. This is probably his last year in the league to begin with. This was likely his last season. He was on an expiring contract with the LA Kings. If you're literally just going to let him walk and decide his fate at that point, let him walk and decide his fate. Don't trade him to Columbus. Nobody in their right mind wants to go to Columbus unless there's money involved, which just ask Johnny Gaudreau how that's working out for him right now, and Patrick Laine. But I don't know. It left a really, really sour taste in my mouth. The guy that led you to 2 Stanley Cups practically on his back, one of the greatest American goaltenders of all time, and just a kick to the curb. See you later. We got another new guy taking your spot right now. I get it's a business at the end of the day, but this just ain't it, Chief. This ain't it. Oh, and spoiler alert, Jonathan Quick's not in Columbus anymore. Now he's going to be in Vegas, and now potentially to clobber LA on certain nights. Way to go, LA. Great job. Way to go. I really, really, really hope Jonathan Quick is that final nail in the coffin to LA this year, and is the reason why LA doesn't make the playoffs, because that would be poetic. That would be just poetic at best. All right. Before we wrap things up here, let's talk team grades. We'll run through these team by team. Again, thanks to TSN for having an easy to navigate website for this, because otherwise I'd have to really write things down, have everything gridded out. Literally Charlie Day in the back here with like strings going in different places and talking about the mail and everything. So thank God that we have this. So we'll start, starting at the top of the alphabet, the Anaheim Ducks. Tom, if you had to give it a grade here, A being the best, F being the worst, what would you grade it here?
I guess maybe a C. Maybe.
Yeah, I think I tend to agree here. I don't think you got nearly enough for John Klingberg, but given the season that he was having, I can understand why you didn't really get as much in return. That, and he was a rental anyway. I really like the Dmitry Kulikov trade. So for that reason, I'm going to say C+ for me. I'm going to say a C+ for me. Arizona, what do you think?
I'd probably say maybe around a C-. I don't know. Maybe higher than that. Maybe a B-, C-. They didn't do anything of note, but they did amass some more draft picks, which is what they're trying to do. So I guess maybe low B, high C for the Coyotes.
Yeah, they get draft picks, but they also load up on terrible contracts with Shea Weber and Jakub Voracek as well.
But that's what they're in business to do, load up on terrible contracts. That's why they exist.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't know. For that reason, I'm gonna give it a C, just because I don't know. I think they could have done more. I think they could have honestly done more. Boston,
Going with an A on this one. I mean, obviously they gave up some first-round draft picks, yes, but they're going for it this year. They're going for broke. Like I said, they remind me of the Dallas Stars in '99, and history has shown us one thing. Even if this team doesn't get it done, and maybe if they have to suffer for another year or two, the Boston Bruins have always been a quick rebounding team. Whenever they are dealt a huge blow and maybe have a fall from grace, it doesn't take them very long to get back up to the top.
Yeah. So I would normally give this an A, but I'm going to go to surprising round. I'm going to say B plus. And the reason why I'm saying B plus, don't get me wrong. Tyler Bertuzzi, Dmitry Orlov, Garnet Hathaway, they're going to play major roles on the Boston Bruins for the remainder of this year. There's no doubt about that. What leaves a sour taste in my mouth is not only giving up this year's first round pick, but next year's first round pick, especially when this team's not getting any younger. And realistically speaking, their window probably closes after this year. So it's Stanley Cup or bust. So I'm going to say it's a B plus. If the Boston Bruins win the Stanley Cup, I'm going to say it now. If the Boston Bruins win the Stanley Cup, it's an A for me. But if they don't win a Stanley Cup, I'm going to call it a B or a B plus. So right now, tentatively, B plus to be on the nice side of things. Buffalo.
Didn't really do anything. I mean, the Jordan Greenway trade was nice. Giving away a second and a fifth, not terrible. I don't know, B minus, B, it's they didn't really do anything of note, but they didn't give away a lot either. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I get what you mean. They really didn't do anything that crazy, nothing that world-breaking. Jordan Greenway, I mean, I would have been really happy to know that Jordan Greenway was actually on a trade block. I mean, look, I'm happy with the Devils acquiring Curtis Lazar, but I think I would have really liked Jordan Greenway, if you know what I mean. Yeah, I'm going to give it a solid B. I think Jordan Greenway does a lot for a developing Buffalo team. Is going to live in that top 9 and really kind of wreak havoc on the Atlantic Division. I think that's a nicer move than a lot of people realize. Calgary.
They didn't do anything, so
No.
I'm giving them an incomplete.
I'm going to give them a D because they needed to do more. And this is a team that was really on the make or break at the moment. And the fact that they really kind of sat on their hands and only got Troy Stetcher and Nick Ritchie, and they traded his brother. I don't know.
It's all right. They're going to do something big in the offseason. I got a funny feeling Sutter's not going to be running that bench next year.
Yeah, I've got a feeling on that one too. More on that as that potentially develops. Carolina, you said that they didn't do as good. So what would you grade it?
D. They brought Gostisbehere, and yes, they needed to do more. They don't want to learn from the past 2 years. That's on them. Honestly, I look at that team up and down right now. They didn't do enough. You want to win a Stanley Cup, you got to do a little bit here, a little bit there. You got to look at why you didn't win in the previous years and improve on it. They have Stastny out long term. I'm not saying they should have got Patrick Kane. They wanted him. They didn't get him. But, maybe bringing in a Brock Besser would have helped matters for them.
Yeah, and I also find it very interesting just to kind of note that you really don't see players jumping ship to make their way over to Carolina. Even in free agency, there's really not always that much movement to go over
I'm just wondering if it's a money, because a lot of the interviews I've heard with players, guys who played down there on the Stanley Cup winning team, like Doug Waite and Mark Recchi, guys who were there, not there very, very long, but they said they loved it down there. They said it's not like Columbus where you're in the middle of nowhere, Yeah. They said they actually enjoyed playing in Carolina. So
yeah,
it may be an internal budget as well.
I just find it interesting in recent years. That's all it is. Just recent years. I'm going to say B minus. Shane Gostisbehere's a nice pickup. Jesse Puljujarvi's a nice pickup. I think less is more here, though, and I think there's a little bit more than meets the eye to this one. Chicago.
I'll go with maybe a B minus for them. Obviously, they gave up Patrick Kane. Kane only said he only wanted to go to the Rangers, and if Kane didn't go to the Rangers, you know what would have happened? He would have said, "I'm done for the season. I'm getting my hip worked on." Okay, got a decent return there for Max Domi. Okay. Honestly, you got 2 conditional first-round picks, yes. Chicago's mind is on Connor Bedard, and I think we all know that. They want to tank hard for Bedard, and eventually build the team back up through the draft. They didn't give up Jonathan Taves. I'm not sure. I think they would have got hosed for him as well. So for what the situation they were in, they didn't do all too bad in my book.
Yeah, honestly, I agree with holding on to Jonathan Taves. I think that was ultimately the right move to make. And I don't know. He could be a really nice mentor if Chicago does indeed end up with Connor Bedard, and could be that perfect role model and mentor coming into the league, as Jonathan Taves could be looking to get out of the league. Ultimately, though, for me, they made a lot of little moves, and that's part of the problem. They should have gotten more from Max Domi. They should have gotten more for Patrick Kane. I'm going to go ahead and say a C+ here because they really don't load up that much in terms of trying to get real deal draft pick assets for this year and next year. Not a whole lot that was done. Colorado.
I'm going to go with a C. The Avs still really didn't find a way to replace Nazem Kadri. Lars Eller, you brought in, yes. He's playing on their third line right now, but I don't know if JT Compher nor Lars Eller are a pure second-line center for this team. Landeskog still hasn't played yet, yes. I understand that, but they never did anything to replace the hole that Kadri left. They never did anything. This team this year, I've sang their praises, and every time I think the Avs finally got it together and they're going to go on this little run and they're going to overtake Dallas, they're going to overtake the West, the East is going to beat everybody, they're going to beat themselves to death, and the Avs are going to skate away with a second cup. And then they put up a stinker like they did on Dallas, like they did against Dallas Saturday afternoon.
Yeah.
I don't think they did enough, and I'm guessing in their minds they're waiting for Landeskog to come back. And they're waiting to see what kind of team they're going to have when everybody's healthy. And that might have been a kind of a handcuff for this year as well with them. It's really, really hard to get a pulse of a team that hasn't been healthy all year. A team that just won a Stanley Cup and now has not iced a full lineup yet this year. March 6th, 2023, Monday. That's what day it is while we're recording this. But I still felt like maybe they should have tried to go for somebody a little bit more to do that second line center. The kind of AB with Compher and Eller flip-flop idea, I don't know if it's going to work.
Well, I think ultimately Colorado was really kind of hoping to land Ryan O'Reilly until Toronto kind of swept in under their feet and made that deal happen. So I think the win got completely taken out of Colorado's sail at that point. So Lars Eller, honestly, is a perfectly fine consolation prize, but you're right. This is a team that hasn't quite reset since losing Nazem Kadri in the offseason. I'm going to go ahead and say a C+. I think the Lars Eller deal is a really nice move. Colorado just needs to kind of scratch and claw to get into the playoffs. And then at that point, all bets are off, because if Colorado makes it, who knows what's going to happen? If they have a healthy lineup at that point, while other teams are starting to get banged up, it could be smooth sailing for them. We'll just have to see what happens. Columbus.
As long as none of them get hurt. That's the other problem they're having this year.
Yeah, that's true. Not a lot happened in Columbus, but at the same time, a couple major trades happened. So Columbus.
I guess I'll go with a B because they're nice people. They got Voracek's contract off their books, and then they did Jonathan Quick a favor when he said he didn't want to stay there. So I guess a B just for being nice.
That's such a passive-aggressive thing. Just like, oh, yeah, they're a terrible franchise, but they're nice. They're nice. But, yeah, they sold. They got a first-round pick for Gavrikov and Korpisalo. That's kind of nice because I don't think Gavrikov's worth a first-round pick, nor is Korpisalo worth a first-round pick. They turned Jonathan Quick around into Michael Hutchinson and a 7th-round pick in 2025. That's kind of head-scratching, but okay. And you also pick up John Gillies, I guess. Just ask Devil fans how well that's going to work out. And yeah, I'm going to say a B- because you get the first-round pick, and I think ultimately that's what helps Columbus here. And Columbus is also in the B bad for Bedard. So we'll see what happens. Dallas.
I'm going to give Dallas a B+, believe it or not. You address your depth, brought Max Domi in, solid third line over there. You also brought in Evgeny Dadonov, who could be a solid second-line player for them as well. B+, they're in first place in the Central Division right now, and in a West that's very unpredictable this year, they may have a shot at getting themselves into a Stanley Cup final. You never know with Dallas. They're having a good year out there, so they addressed a couple needs, made their forward core a little bit deeper, so I'm going to go with a solid B+ for Dallas.
Yeah, look at that. You and I agreeing on this one. Solid B+ too. Max Domi, I think, is going to be a nice little acquisition for them. He doesn't have to play in the top 6 if he doesn't want to. Also, Picking up, oh my God, why am I blanking on this one? And I just changed the page. No. And also picking up Evgeny Dodonov is also really nice. Still a change of scenery for him too, after he's been kind of lackluster in Montreal. So yeah, nice little move. Detroit.
Hold on.
Detroit's tough to peg.
It's hard because in one respect they could go on a run and make the playoffs. In another respect, they could win the Connor Bedard sweepstakes. It's very difficult to figure out what direction the Red Wings are heading in, just because they're playing in such a stacked division and such a stacked conference as well. I got to give the Red Wings a B here. They didn't particularly go crazy in trying to bring players in, but they didn't particularly give up all too much either. I mean, you brought in Oscar Sundqvist, you brought in Jacob Vrana, I guess solid depth pickups. I think that Steve Yzerman in his mind is saying the same thing. This could go either way. We could either make the playoffs or we could potentially get Connor Bedard. And I just think that's how Steve Yzerman has to think, because I think Steve Yzerman got a little too high on Alexis Lafreniere a couple of years ago, and when they didn't get him, he said I think I bought into this a little too much.
Yeah, honestly, I give it a solid B. A really, really solid B. You load up on draft picks. You got a first round pick next year. You got a first round pick this year as well, and a second round pick this year too in the Philip Hronek trade. Really, really nice move against Vancouver, all at the expense of Vancouver, mind you. Getting a first round pick and a fourth round pick for Tyler Bertuzzi is nice. Unloading Jacob Vrana, unloading Oscar Sundqvist. I got to think that there's something brewing here with Detroit, maybe in the offseason, that they're really trying to make something happen in the offseason again. They did that this past offseason and getting Andrew Kopp. Maybe another move is coming down the pipeline too, and also re-signing Dylan Larkin as well. To that nice little deal.
Maybe they go after Tarasenko in the offseason, especially if they get Bedard.
It's entirely possible.
I'm a Ranger fan. I love Tarasenko, but this is a limited time. This is a limited availability. Available for a limited time, Vladimir Tarasenko, pretty much.
Yeah, and honestly, I think Tarasenko would look really nice in Red Wings red. So I just think that that's ultimately where he could be heading to. But yeah, I'll give it a solid B. Edmonton.
I don't know. They didn't do all that much.
But in what they did, it was also really nice.
Yeah. I mean, let me just see here. Bukestad was nice. It was a nice pickup. It's hard to tell with them, man. I guess maybe a low B, high C with Edmonton. I still feel like they didn't address their defense. They're still relying way too much on McDavid and Draisaitl. They didn't do anything to improve their depth. They didn't do anything to improve their D. But they also didn't make any dumb trades either.
Yeah, they didn't make any dumb trades, that's for sure. You do give up a first round pick this year for Matthias Ekholm, but I think that was necessary. I think Ekholm is a game-changing level defenseman for Edmonton. I think Nick Bukestad is also a really nice little move too. I'll give it between a B- and a B. I think it's leaving me wondering where Edmonton really goes in the postseason here. They're certainly going to more than likely make the postseason. I think they're going to make a nice little run in the Western Conference, especially if it's a little bit on the weaker side. And Connor McDavid basically keeps carrying that team. But you can't win with just one player. I'm going to skip over Florida. Florida did nothing. So, incomplete on that one, although I'd just be more apt to give it an F. LA.
I guess maybe a D. They didn't do anything. They swapped an enforcer for an enforcer. I guess they're comfortable where they are in the standings. So, but still, I mean, you're in second in the Pacific. You're chasing Vegas for first place. Vegas did some stuff to improve. Seattle's kind of riding high on, hey, it's our second year and we don't really care what we do because it's our second year. But LA should have tried to do something and they didn't do anything. So I'm giving them a D.
I'm giving him a D also, but for different reasons. Yeah, you get Vladislav Gavrikov. You address a need for a defenseman, that's for sure. But you didn't get Chychrun. You didn't get Erik Karlsson, especially when there was, all the possibility of even getting them. But at the same time, you do get to keep Quentin Byfield and Alex Turcotte, which is kind of nice. But the biggest problem with LA has been their abysmal goaltending. Like they have the worst goaltending in the NHL. So what's their solution? Joonas Korpisalo. Yeah, I don't think that's it. And especially at the expense of Jonathan Quick. Yeah, it's a D for me. It's a D. Minnesota.
This is yet another team like Detroit where it's hard to have a pulse on where they're going and what they're doing. Second place in the Central right now, three behind Dallas, Colorado, 4 behind them, but with 2 games in hand. I guess I'd maybe
really nice moves for Klingberg, Sundqvist.
Yeah, they were nice moves
Johansson.
for Klingberg and Sundqvist, but there's always that outside chance that they could miss the playoffs or they could go out early in round 1.
Yeah.
I guess I give them maybe a B, but it's a team that's kind of stuck in a holding pattern. They're definitely not cup contenders, but they're not rebuilders either. It's hard to do stuff with teams like this. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and I guess I understand where you're coming from. I'm going to give it a B-. I think the depth is going to play a real factor once we get to the playoffs. I think picking up playoff experience personnel such as Oscar Sundqvist, John Klingberg, Marcus Johansson, I think are really important moves for veteran leadership and kind of help a younger Minnesota team here, help the likes of Matthew Boldy and Kapril Kaprizov once you get to the playoffs. I'm left scratching my head on they really couldn't find a trade for Matt Dumba, especially after talking about trading Matt Dumba for like the past few months. Left a little bit confused. I'm wondering if maybe they're going to try to re-sign John Klingberg in the offseason and let Matt Dumba walk. So I don't know. B- for me. I don't hate the moves, but yeah, they don't do much for me. Montreal, not a whole lot to talk about Montreal here.
Yeah,
but
Montreal's
I will say this. I did like the Dennis Gurianov move. I really, really do hope that a change of scenery is all this guy needs because he really is a nice player. He's a really, really good player. So for that reason, I'm going to give it a C+ with the potential of maybe going up from there. This could be a trade that we look back on that actually could be kind of nice, but not a whole lot to unpack there. So Nashville, there's a lot to unpack here.
Nashville. Yeah, they're kind of in rebuild mode a little bit.
Yeah.
Tad bit. You bring in Tyson Barrie, you're bringing in draft picks. I give Nashville probably I'd say around high B, low A, A-. I think the Preds are still in the hunt of it, but it kind of reminds me the Rangers sent the letter out. They were still in the playoff hunt, but I think their mind is more on the future right now because I think they know even if they get in, they might not do all that much. Right now, they're 6 points out, and it looks like the gap in the West is becoming greater and greater by the day. So it looks like the Preds are going into rebuild mode.
I give it an A. I honestly give it an A because you get a second-round pick for Nino Niederreiter. You get that bevy of picks from Tampa, as well as Cal Foote. You get Isaac Ratcliffe, who, again, a good change of scenery could be really, really nice for a former top prospect of the Philadelphia Flyers. You get Tyson Barrie. You get a first-round pick this year and a fourth-round pick next year. You get a second-round pick for this year, too. And you get Rasmus Asplund, who Buffalo fans know is just not that bad a player. He's a pretty decent, role player in the bottom 6. Yeah, Nashville is certainly in rebuild mode, and I think this is a great way to kick that off, honestly. I give it a solid A. I really like Nashville's trade deadline. New Jersey Devils, be nice.
I'd say an A, but it's depending on what happens with Meyer in the offseason. That's the big question mark. And is Meyer willing to come down from his $10 million qualifying offer demands? And is he willing to accept that he's not going to make more money than Jack Hughes? That's the Devils president right now.
I think one thing that ultimately helps is the money that Patrice Bergeron just made, because you have to make the argument now for both Jesper Bratt and for Timo Meyer. Just look and say, hey, are you more valuable than David Pastrnak? And you guys know you're not. That, and traditionally, wingers do not make more money than centers. The Devils are just in a very, very unique circumstance right now where they're currently paying their top 2 centers $8 million and $7 million a year, respectively. And that was just savvy moves by Tom Fitzgerald over the past 2 years.
Yeah, it's just, but that's my thing with Meyer. Will he be willing to take $8 million flat and leave $2 million on the table, stay in Jersey?
Entirely possible. It's a win-win situation to me, because even if Timo Meyer, and if a team ends up offer sheeting him for $10 million, at that point,
Take the picks.
We'll take the picks at that point. Just take the picks. Honestly, be happy with all the picks that you end up getting. But what would be your grade here? An A or
I'm gonna go with an A, yeah. But like I said, it depends on what happens long term with Timo Meyer. Curtis Lazar was a nice pickup as well.
Yeah, I'm gonna say an A, but it is gonna depend on what happens with Timo Meyer. I err on the side of caution there. I do like the Curtis Lazar pickup, and I think that's a good type of future type of pickup too. Yeah, I liked it. The Islanders, keeping in mind also the Bo Horvat deal too.
C-. Bo Horvat deal was nice. They signed Bo Horvat for too much money.
Yeah, way too much. And then Pierre Engvall picking him up is nice, and the Islanders are certainly trying to win that 8th seed right now. It's gonna be tough, but I give it a C plus. Just
not for nothing, the Islanders win the 8th seed. I don't think they're going to go out and 4 straight to Boston. I could see them giving the Bruins a little bit of a scare, but it's. And I hate to say it, discounting their 2 little runs to the conference finals there over the past 2 years. The Islanders' MO over the past 20 years has been getting to the first round, maybe scare a team a little bit, but then get eliminated.
Yeah. Rangers.
Giving the Rangers an F. Rangers get an A.
Yeah.
Rangers get an A. They did give away a first-round pick, but everybody and their mother knew that pick they got from Dallas was freaking cannon fodder for a trade. Yeah. Tarasenko, not going to lie. He's not going to be back, I don't think. But that first-round pick initially belonged to Dallas. So it was never their pick anyway. They didn't give up Othman. They didn't give up Zach Jones, Matthew Robertson, or Adam Sikora. They didn't give up any of those guys. On top of that, you brought in Patrick Kane. He demanded it. And that's what I said about Kane as well earlier in the year. He would need to demand his way to New York and put it into a point where it's like, I will only go there. I'm not going anywhere else. Funny part about it is this. I could see them somehow working some magic over the summertime and keeping him there for maybe one more year. I think Tarasenko's a goner. But I'm not so sure about Kane. I could see Kane maybe staying one more year and them figuring something out. Whether they got a Kucherov him to get his hip fixed, whether they got to get a contract for him with like 9,000 different incentive bonuses. I'm just not so sure that this is a rental for Patrick Kane. It may be not so much a long-term thing, but I think he may stay around longer than just the end of this year.
Yeah, something tells me that one of these players is going to stick around. But yeah, I'm not going to front either. This is an A for me. As much as I want to clown, as much as I want to play around on this one, it's an A. The Rangers did a really nice job, and if the Devils have to play them in the first round, it's certainly going to be scary, but it's going to be a fun matchup. Ottawa.
I don't like what they did. I'm going to just say it straight out. You paid too much for Jacob Chikrin when you're not a playoff team. You gave away a first and 2 seconds for Chikrin. You haven't even made the playoffs yet. You think you can do it, but you might not. Ottawa, I don't want to give him an F. I give him a D just to be nice. You gave up too much for Jacob Chikrin. I'm sorry.
In the grand scheme of it all, though, they could have given up so much more for Chikrin. If you really think about it, they really could have given up a lot more than people realize there. Honestly, for me, I give it a solid B minus. I give him a solid B minus. You pick up Julian Gauthier for Tyler Mott. You get rid of Nikita Zaitsev and his contract as well. You pick up Jacob Chikrin for the long haul here. I'm thinking more so for the future for Ottawa here. They made some good moves for the future, I feel like here. Yeah, you pay a little bit for Jacob Chikrin, but you know what? You got to give to get. Philadelphia. For me, I'm going to just say it flat out. Philadelphia gets an F.
Yeah, same here. The one guy you had as your bargaining chip, you screwed up on the trade at the last minute.
Yeah, what are they doing there, man? Just straight up F. Pittsburgh also. Look, Pittsburgh's in an identity crisis right now. There's no doubt about that. They're in a flat-out identity crisis. They don't know what they want to be. They want to be a playoff team, so that's why you get Nick Bonino, Dmitry Kulikov, Mikhail Granlund, and offload Teddy Bluger as well. I don't know. For me, it's in the grand scheme of it all, you don't really give up that much to get these 3 guys. So if they make the playoffs, maybe a B.
Maybe you're relying too much on they're still relying too much on guys like Crosby and Malkin. So yeah.
And that's going to come back to bite them, and the cows are going to come to roost soon. Wait, the cows are going to come to roost? Roosting cows. Oh God. San Jose.
San Jose got some nice returns for the trades that they wanted to make, so I give San Jose a B. San Jose, and they also didn't give up Eric Carlson. But at the same time, San Jose wins the Bedard sweepstakes. They may be a little further along than they want to be, especially if they have Bedard. You have Carlson there. I think at the end of the day, better to have a number one D than I guess a winger to complement him. I don't know.
Yeah, I was so ready to give San Jose an F just because I'll be honest, they didn't get nearly enough for Timo Meyer. They could have done a lot more, and it feels like they went kind of bargain barrel clearance hunting with the New Jersey Devils. The Devils have been basically making it no secret. Oh, Shakir Mukmadulin's coming over to the U.S. It'd be really nice to see him in a Devils jersey, maybe, and basically just trying to publicize, hey, he's on the market. Come ask for him. He's coming to the U.S. And they made it work. They really honestly made it work. And still, guys don't know what to make of him. If he's a top 4 defenseman, if he's just cannon fodder, we don't quite know yet. San Jose, though, I don't know. I give it a B. And the reason why is because they got a halfway decent return from Meyer. It's not the return that they wanted, but you also hold on to Eric Carlson. And if he ends up winning the Norris Trophy this year, that only makes his value that much higher. And if they can trade him in the offseason for an even bigger possible cash prize there, could be really, really nice. Seattle didn't do anything here, so I'm going to skip over them because Seattle really were quiet. Teams that weren't quiet, though, St. Louis Blues. What would you rate it?
Hey, they got good returns for their two franchise cornerstones they dangled. They got what they wanted back for both of them. So yeah. St. Louis, you kept a couple of guys around like Torrey Krug. So St. Louis kind of in a holding pattern. But hey, what if St. Louis gets Bedard? Look how far along they are then.
Yeah, I mean, St. Louis, for me, they honestly get an A from me. They got 2 first-round picks in a loaded draft year. And St. Louis, who knows, if they really keep tanking and they really, put the tank on heavy, we could be talking about Connor Bedard in a St. Louis Blues jersey, which be crazy to possibly imagine that. I'm going to flat out say it. Tampa Bay gets an F. F. We already beat that one with a dead horse. You understand why we give it an F. It's an F. Toronto's an A for me.
I'm giving them an A. You got Ryan O'Reilly, who I'm not sure they even needed, but you short up your D, and I keep saying about Toronto every year, you got to improve your D. Maybe they don't have that legit number one guy there, but you improved your D. And you got a first-round pick out of the deal. Toronto's an A for me.
Yeah, Toronto flat out is an A. I love it. Vancouver Canucks, a lot to consider here.
You got a third round. You got a third-round pick for Shen. That's not horrible.
No,
you
traded away a first and a second-round pick for Philip Kronick.
Yeah, which is dumb.
Really dumb.
Which is dumb. You got Vitaly Kravtsov from the Rangers, but I think the Rangers were just about done with him. You got Anthony Beauvillier, who's a playoff performer and a first-rounder from the Islanders.
Yeah.
I got to go with a C here for these Canucks because it's I don't know what the hell they're doing. They may be in for Bedard too, so who knows, man? This Bedard thing needs to be over so we can stop pretending we know where he's going to go.
I'm going with a C just because, to quote one of my favorite movies of all time, Moonstruck, I'm confused. I'm just confused. Vegas.
Hold on, I clicked the wrong thing.
Vegas picked up Teddy Bluger and Ivan Barbashev.
Teddy Bluger, Ivan Barbashev.
Jonathan Quick, too.
Yeah, I give them a solid B. I do. They're in first place in their division. They're in a wide open conference. I give them a B. They did what they needed to do without blowing up the farm. Eventually, Vegas is going to come back and bite them, but maybe just not right now.
Yeah, I give them a solid B+ because they didn't do anything outrageous like I really thought that they were going to do because they really didn't need to do anything outrageous. But you get Barbashev for a relatively cheap price, and you also get Teddy Bluger, which I don't know why Pittsburgh decided to deal him away. B+. Washington.
Washington,
D.
let's see. D, I don't know why you would give up a first-round pick when you're probably not even going to make the playoffs.
No, you're not going to make the playoffs. Yes, Rasmus Sandin is a player for the future for sure. Maybe you're kind of hoping he turns into another possible John Carlson type of player, but I think that ship has sailed, honestly. And trading away Lars Eller is just kind of already just admitting that, all right, we're kind of rounding out things here. But if you're already trading Lars Eller, they should have also tried to find a trade for TJ Oshie. They should have tried to trade Tom Wilson. And I don't know. It's a D for me. Kind of pathetic, not really going out with a bang. And Winnipeg acquiring Nino Niederreiter and Vladislav Nemestikov.
2 solid pickups. I'll give him a B. It's not bad either. I mean, Nemestikov, I don't know. He's kind of a head case. Whenever he's not in Tampa, he starts pouting and getting pissed off when he's not playing for the Bolts. But Niederreiter was a nice little pickup for the first line. So, yeah, I give him a B.
Yeah, I give it a solid B also. And Winnipeg just needed to get a little bit deeper, and they do that with picking up Nemestikov and picking up Niederreiter. I think Winnipeg is full steam ahead, trying to maybe make some noise in the Western Conference. But time to round things out today with our question of the day. And our question of the day here is simple. Who took the biggest step forward after the trade deadline here, Tom? And you guys can answer down below in the comment section.
I got to say, it's funny when you look at the original 6 teams in the league. You have 3 of them right now who are horrible and 3 of them who are going for it. So I'm going to go with 3 original 6 teams: Rangers, Leafs, and Bruins.
Yeah. Enough said there. I would have said the Leafs literally a few hours ago, but with Ryan O'Reilly now going down with a broken finger, it's not known yet when he's coming back.
He's going to play. He'll play in game 1 of the playoffs. They're just not going to play him in the regular season.
Dude's a warrior, so yeah. I think he's coming back strong. For me, I'm going to say 4 teams because I'm going to be biased here. I'll make it fun. Toronto, New York, Boston, like you mentioned, and New Jersey, because I think they're a better team with Timo Meier in the lineup. And I think eventually once they get Curtis Lazar, they get a little bit of insurance on that bottom 6. So yeah, but as usual, guys, what do you guys think? Do you agree? Do you disagree with our takes? Let us know in the comments section down below. What would you grade each of these teams like what we just graded them? Let us know, comment, drop a like while you're there, subscribe, and hit the bell notification down below so that way you guys know when we go live. And if you're listening on your favorite podcast, make sure you check us out down below, youtube.com/i80sports. And make sure you follow us on Twitter at i80_sportsNHL. And if you guys follow us already, thank you guys so much because we greatly value all of your support. Without you guys, we can't do this on a weekly basis, which, yeah, we're going back to a weekly basis coming up soon. Sorry for the sporadic attendance lately, but time to really go full speed ahead now that we're getting towards the end of the regular season. It's been a wild year in the NHL, probably one of my favorite years in the NHL so far. And we're just going to keep unpacking it week to week. But until then, let's watch more hockey. I'm Brian. He's Tom. This has been yet another episode of NHL on i80 Sports.